This is Batman. Security level Omega. Data code Delta Charlie 27 5 1939. Title Agamemnon Contingency. Should any members of the Justice League ever turn rogue, we need to have plans in place to handle each threat. The members of the League are my teammates and are my friends. And as much as it pains me to plan these events, we need to be prepared for the worst. Always. Agamemnon Contingency 01. File codename Last Son. If Superman were to ever turn against the League, a sample of green kryptonite held in Vault 7B, provided by Superman himself, could be used against him. The kryptonite crystal was radioactive to his skin cells, and temporary exposure could incapacitate him and render him a mortal man, and prolonged exposure can be lethal. Additionally, a sample of kryptonite exposed to different forms of radiation is red in color, and manipulated Kryptonians' emotions. However, this kryptonite would make them more powerful, and even more dangerous. Agamemnon Contingency 02. File codename Olympus. Diana is a close friend, and an impressive warrior, which would make her even harder to face in battle. But if it must be done, the following actions could be taken into place to incapacitate her. Diana is a born and raised soldier, and unlike any members of the League, she has no weakness. However, as a hard-headed Amazonian warrior, her feelings are easily enraged in battle. One could manipulate her into falling into a psychotic rage, which would make her distract and more vulnerable to attacks. Once this is executed, one could manipulate her into using as much strength as she can withstand, and render her exhausted. Then, she is as weak as any other, and can easily be put down. Agamemnon Contingency 03. File codename Red Sands. Jean-Jeans, the Manhunter from Mars, is the heart and the soul of the Justice League. Possessing similar powers to that of Superman, with the addition of shapeshifting and telepathy, he is a formidable opponent. We are lucky he is on our side. However, as he is from the surface of Mars, his skin is vulnerable to fire. Injecting him with a nanite sample fueled with magnesium, his cells will not be able to contain the fire, and so his flesh will be set aflame. But in order to do this without being harmed by his attacks, a pair of earpieces are held in the science lab that are able to deflect his telepathic control. Be warned that timing is imperative to disabling him. Agamemnon Contingency 04. File codename Guardian. A ring of a Green Lantern is the most powerful weapon in the universe. Its power level is unknown, as it's only restricted by the wielder's imagination and can only be separated from the wielder in the event of their death. Fortunately, Hal Jordan's ego gets the better of him and limits his power levels. But two things can be done to defeat him. As fear is the opposite of will, a canister filled with some of Scarecrow's fear toxin is held in the weapons facility on board the Watchtower, which could be used against him. Either through injection, ingestion, or breathing, this could render the ring useless. Another possibility, only if necessary, is that in Vault 3A is a Yellow Lantern ring of fear, with limited charge. One could simply use this ring and concentrate on extracting all the fear in his body, and could use that against him. This can render incapable of possessing the ring altogether, and would render his position in the League useless. Agamemnon Contingency 05. File codename Mercury. Barry Allen, aka The Flash, is one of the most respected colleagues of the Justice League, and a close friend. If I were to ever be a different man, I would like to be someone like Barry. But if he were to ever turn against us, he would be an unstoppable threat if there were no plans put into action for this catastrophe. His super speed enables him to tap into a mysterious energy source called the Speed Force, which enables him to not only run at superhuman speed, but to phase through objects, shoot lightning from his hands, and even travel through time, making him one of the most formidable members of the League. However, as speed is an imitation of friction which gives off heat, cooling the surface of his skin down to sub-zero temperatures would disable his use of super speed, cutting off his power completely. A replica of Leonard Snart's cold gun was provided by Star Labs in case the Flash would ever turn rogue. But using this would be tricky when he can single-handedly take as many of us down in a matter of microseconds. Distracting him with the loss of his mother would be an effective method. Then using the gun would no longer be a problem. Agamemnon Contingency 06, file codename Atlantis. Aquaman, like Wonder Woman, is a ferocious leader and strong warrior. He is always armored with his Atlantean trident, which enables him to enhance his super strength and marine life telepathy. As he is part human and part Atlantean, we can easily use heat or fire against him. However, to maximize this method of incapacitation effectively, one could even separate him from coming into contact with water, therefore cutting off his strength and disabling him from fighting back. It's then simply just a matter of combat and separating him from his trident. Agamemnon Contingency 07, file codename Grid. Victor Stone is half human and half machine, yet has one of the biggest hearts in the whole team. But this should not distract anyone from attempting to stop him if he were to become a threat to the planet. He is one of the few members of the League who doesn't have an actual weakness, but certain plans can be taken into place in order to prevent his attempts. As he is hooked up to every computer data file in the world, one could replicate one of Brainiac's computer algorithms that was used to shut down all technological devices on the planet in his most recent invasion of Earth. Hiding this in a triple bio-coded WAV file would enable to run through all of Cyborg's systems, and then remote detonating the virus inside him could turn his computer systems off completely. Another technique to temporarily weaken him is to use an enhanced EMP device held in the security vault in the watchtower. Agamemnon Contingency Field Notes. The previous contingency files are placed for the core members of the League. However, we need to have additional plans in place for other members of the League. The following plans are for additional contingencies for each individual hero. Green Arrow. Incapacitate one of his arms using advanced combat training techniques. Black Canary. Tear gas. An alternative method could be playing back one of her recorded shrieks at equal intensity, cancelling out the sound waves. Zatanna. Dark magic book held in the sealed vault in the Batcave could be enough to take her on in combat. Firestorm. Phantom Zone. Lack of raw materials would render his radioactive powers useless, making him unable to merge. Plastic Man. Liquid nitrogen grenades held in the weapons bay. Vibe. Electrical current amplifier reversing the polarity of his energy blasts could bounce back onto himself. Hawkgirl. Molotov cocktail thrown at her wings could set them alight and disable her balance. Should any of the members of the League turn rogue, these contingency files must be put into action no matter who does so or whom the enemy is. Otherwise, the human race could face the possibility of global annihilation. We must be prepared for the very worst. And so, Agamemnon Contingency 08, file codename Dark Knight. If Batman were to ever become an enemy, he'll have ideas of how to overcome any enemy that gets in his way. But he is only human. His combat training is not to be reckoned with, but the more superpowers can be used against him, the more successful chance of apprehending him there is. Another technique would be to destroy all tools, gadgets, and weaponry, especially his utility belt. Distracting him with the death of his parents and being unable to save them is a good starting point to attempt to stop him in combat. Think carefully before doing this, as this might be the last thing you ever do.